Back on Connection here on TKO8 Television. Dennis King, thanks for joining us on our show today. For the second half of our show, we have a gentleman who is the Director of Public Works for the City of Harrison, Wade Phillips. Wade, I've known for a long time. Thanks for coming in, Wade. We appreciate it very much.
I appreciate it.
You make me feel real old, you know, because you went to school with my son. So.
I did, yeah.
We won't say how long ago.
Played a lot of baseball with him.
Played a lot of baseball, too. Yes, you did. Thanks for coming in, Wade. At the council meeting the other night, you addressed the council about some things that we're working on here that has to do with lead and copper levels in our drinking water. Why don't you just start off, and I'll ask you a few questions. Just kind of tell the public kind of where we've been and kind of where we are right now, and what your plan is.
Okay. Well, lead and copper is something that all water systems that we try to keep track of. The EPA has a rule out. It's called the lead and copper rule. It requires us to do monitoring at people's taps so that we can see what kind of lead and copper levels that they have in their water. 2014, we were doing our regular round of sampling. We did, I believe it was, 34 samples in 2014. 4 of those samples came back above 15 parts per billion, which is kind of the action level that we're looking for. We start seeing numbers above that, we say, well, we need to dig in a little bit further, see what's going on. So in 2015, we did much more extensive testing. We did 60 samples in the first half of the year at people's taps. 1 out of those 60 came back above the 15 parts per billion, which is well within any regulatory limits that we're dealing with. The second round of 60, we had 10 come back above that 15 parts per billion. That shows that we need to be taking some further steps. So what we've done, we've put PSAs out, we've discussed it at council, given the information in the newspaper. We put them in the bills that went out this month. Actually, I think it's a 4-page insert with a lot of information. And so from a regulatory standpoint, we need to keep putting the information out. We also are going to be looking at doing what's corrosion control in the water system. We have until November of 2018. We're going to actually try and be well ahead of that mark. We're in the process of putting together the plans for the equipment in order to put a corrosion inhibitor into our water. And we hope maybe late summer, fall, at least before the end of this year, to go ahead and get that process started and start correcting this issue. You know, one of the things that I know has confused a lot of people is where's the lead coming from? Also, part of the testing that we did, we didn't just test at the taps. We tested directly from our water system. We didn't have any water taken directly from water mains that was above the 15 parts per billion. Actually, almost 90% of the samples that we took directly from the water system were below what's even detectable by current testing methods. We had, I think, 1 that showed up around 6 or 7 parts per billion, which is still less than half of, the action level that we're looking for. So the real culprit, and what we're trying to get the information out so that people know kind of what to do, is a lot of this has to do with that older plumbing that's in homes. Back in the mid-'80s, new regulations were passed to limit the amount of lead that's in copper pipe, ban the use of lead solder in plumbing, limited the amount of lead that's in, fixtures, plumbing fixtures in general. So, if you're looking at plumbing that's newer than that, you're probably not going to have an issue. But if you're in an older home, which I am, my house was built in the early '80s, so, that's when you might be considering, okay, maybe I need to be a little bit worried about, how much lead is in my water, just because we have had a small number of homes start to show elevated levels. The water bills have got information on who to call if you want to get your water tested.
Okay.
It's also got our contact numbers if they want to. People can call us, ask questions anytime. So it's just one of those things. We're trying to get the information out there so that people know what to do, know who to talk to, and.
Wade, the levels that you're talking about that you have recently tested and seen in some areas, is that a dangerous level? Is it something, and I don't want to put you on the spot,
no,
but is it
No, that's a good question. Yeah. We've not seen any levels that would be considered toxic.
Okay.
Now, it could be concerning if you've got other exposure to lead. It may be, if you've got, for whatever, lead's everywhere. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. Used to be used in a lot of paint and all kinds of different materials. If you've already got a high exposure to lead from other sources, and then if you've got, higher than what we want to see in drinking water, that could kind of be the straw that breaks the camel's back as far as getting your exposure too high to where you could be seeing effects. So, although, we're not seeing anything that's toxic right now, at the same time, we want to make sure that we're taking steps to reduce those numbers and let people know what's going on, because we don't know their situation as far as their other exposures to lead.
How's the best way for the public out there? Let's say I live in an older home that was built, let's say in the early 80s or before, should I bring a sampling of water, or how's the easiest way and most efficient way to do that?
The inserts that we put in the water bills and a lot of the information we've sent out has got the number for a lab in Little Rock that does this water testing.
Okay.
And so basically you can call them, they'll tell you how to get them a sample, they'll get you a result back.
Okay, so that's...
we don't have the means to test it ourselves. All of our samples are sent to the health department labs in Little Rock, and they will only do what is required by the regulations. So unfortunately, we can't just have people bring in samples and send them down to Little Rock. They won't test it for us. But that would be, if you're really concerned and you want to find out what it is coming out of your tap, then that would be the best route to go. If you're concerned, and just a really simple way to help is in the morning before you drink water, turn your faucet on, run it for 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay.
You get lead in the water when it's been sitting in the pipes and it's got time to leach out into that water. So if you just run your water for a little bit until you get fresh water coming through, then you're not going to have those elevated levels of lead. Because that's actually, when we're doing the test, it's an important thing, is it needs to be a first draw that we're looking for. So we ask people whenever they're helping us and getting samples from their tap, they fill that bottle first thing in the morning before they use water for anything else, because we want to see what kind of lead you've got in the water when it's not been used for several hours.
Wow, well, that makes sense. I hadn't thought about that. You do have, and some people don't use a lot of water.
No, they don't.
Particularly a lot of elderly people or somebody that doesn't have children where you're using it constantly. I think of myself. Some of the faucets, some of the locations in my house, I don't turn it on. I may not turn it on once a week.
Yeah.
I just don't use it. You use one bathroom and don't use the other, or you don't drink a lot of it. So at this point in time, Wade, do you think? I hear people out there talk about the fact, Harrison water is not fit to drink, and but this is not just Harrison water. Let's take we've got a lot of rural area here. We got a lot of people that are on, they're on Crooked Creek water or wherever. Same scenario for them?
It could be, yeah.
If they've got an old house, it could be the same scenario.
Yeah, if they've got an old house with lead plumbing, the water chemistry is to where you could be seeing a little bit of corrosion. Yeah, it's possible. This is something that every water system in America monitors for and deals with. Several cities in Arkansas have already kind of gone through where we are, and they've implemented corrosion control successfully and have moved forward. So we're just kind of going through that process. Yeah.
The corrosion control and I'm not sure I wrote down what the actual chemical is, but is it something that is it safe for people? There's any side effects to it, or
no, there's not. There's several options that we could look at doing as far as trying to control corrosion in the water system. A lot of different chemicals available to. We can do it through pH adjustment using caustic soda, which is basically lye. It's a pretty nasty chemical when you think about it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a hit or miss. But adjusting the water chemistry is one way in order to reduce corrosion. Another and probably more aggressive approach to trying to tackle the problem is to use a corrosion inhibitor, and that's what we're looking at doing. We're looking at using some form of phosphate. You've got a few different options out there. You've got orthophosphates, polyphosphates, blends of the different types of phosphates, as well as some that have got zinc orthophosphates. And a lot of it has to do with your water chemistry, the predominant types of pipe you've got in your water system. And that's kind of what we're going through right now is getting the right blend of what kind of phosphates we want to use. We're looking at probably a zinc orthophosphate that we'll inject into the water with the goal of what that will do is that will actually create a barrier on the inside of the pipes, as well as household plumbing, that will inhibit that corrosion, will prevent the lead and copper and really any other metals from leaching from the pipes and the plumbing into the water.
In our infrastructure program here in the city of Harrison, I know through the years I've seen a lot of water mains being replaced and so forth. So I guess it's the same scenario. Some of the old pipes that have been, that are 60, 80 years old or whatever that you're having to deal with, same problem with them, obviously, out there that may be, and that's why you're continuing in the infrastructure program to replace a lot of those supply lines, if you will.
And a lot of the old galvanized iron pipe, cast iron pipe, a lot of our old asbestos cement pipe, all that stuff. We're just working through getting it all replaced, but all pipe corrodes.
Right.
So, kind of an added benefit to doing this corrosion control is it will actually benefit the entire system as a whole. It'll help reduce pipe failures due to corrosion. So we'll get some ancillary benefits aside from just reducing the lead that can leach into the water from.
Once you start the injection process into the system, is it fairly immediate that it will start, or does it take a little time?
It'll take a little bit of time. What we're going to do, the plan right now that we're looking at, and we're being pretty cautious about making sure we get the right dosages.
Right.
But what we're looking at right now is probably a 5 part per million dose of the zinc orthophosphate for the first 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
What that will do is that will.
We got about a minute left.
Okay.
So
that'll build up the barrier on the inside of the pipe.
Right.
And then we'll back that down to a maintenance dose of probably 2 to 3 parts per million and carry that.
Just maintain
in order to maintain that protective barrier. On
so
the
kind of a
pipe.
shock to start with,
Yes.
if you will, for lack of a better word, and then back it off into to a level that you'll maintain.
And it's a safe chemical that's used by over at least 40 water systems in Arkansas alone.
Oh, wow.
So.
Okay. So this is, like you said, we're not the only community that's got old pipes out there going into their houses.
We're not blazing new ground with this.
Not Wade, thank you. I appreciate you coming in today. Not only good to see you, but you're doing a great job with the Public Works Department here. And I know this is just another challenge for you and your people, but people are concerned about their health and they're concerned about this. So it's good to get this information out there. And as we move forward, we want to get you back on the show down a few months, and once you get this thing rolling, and we'll talk about it some more. Can't get too much information out there, obviously, but we do appreciate it, and thanks for your help, and thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for the opportunity to
appreciate that. Wade Phillips, the Director of Public Works for the City of Harrison. Again, they are attacking the problem. The water's still safe to drink. You can drink it right out of the tap. Let it run for about 30 seconds, if you will, as Wade mentioned. Thanks, Wade, for being on the show. Thanks for joining us on our show. We'll see you again next time.